Pay attention. The dreaming mind is not a separate realm from your waking life. It is the place where the shadow dances most brightly and freely. And the more you listen to the dreams, the more you will learn. You might feel an overwhelming pull towards retreating, a pull to go inwards, to go out into nature, silence or seclusion. This is not depression. This is soul work. You are composting generations of suppression, shame, and inherited trauma. You are clearing the soil for something to grow. Honor this stage of your process. This is the womb of your rebirth. As you encounter your shadow, you also begin to find the gold housed within it. This is what Carl Jung described as the gold in the dark. Because many of its buried traits you may have repressed are not just wounds, they are gifts. Your anger you push down becomes your boundary. Your grief you couldn't bear becomes your compassion. Your shame becomes your authenticity. Your abandoned desires become your aliveness. You begin to see that the shadow is not your enemy, it is your true self's guardian. As you begin to integrate the shadow, things begin to change. Not because everything is suddenly easy, but because you stop resisting what is. You become emotionally sovereign. You stop projecting your distress onto others. You stop blaming. You stop judging. You start to take responsibility for your triggers, your choices, and your healing, and this is the beginning of a mature spirituality. Warning, the shadow is multi-layered. Just when you think you've cleared it all away, a deeper layer will surface. This isn't a regression, it's evolution. The spiral path of awakening takes you ever-deepening angles, not because you haven't arrived, but to prepare you to embody more fully. Each layer represents a deeper connection to your essence, a deeper connection to your core, a deeper connection to your truth. This is the sacred paradox. As you descend into your darkness, you carry more light. You will become grounded, present, rooted. Not because you are perfect, but because you've integrated perfectionism. You no longer need to perform. You no longer pursue your enlightenment like it's a prize. Once you've arrived, you live it, moment by moment, in how you show up, how you speak, how you love. When you confront your shadow, you become whole. Not just light, not just dark, but both, fully, fiercely, unapologetically. This is the center of your journey, the place where transformation goes deeper, the place where delusion dissolves, the place where your true power arises, not as something that controls others, but as something that connects you to your own divine nature. The dark night of the soul, losing everything to find what matters. The path of awakening, as beautiful and liberating as it is, ultimately brings many to a point so isolating and intense that even the most grounded, mature seekers can find themselves utterly lost. This is what is referred to as the dark night of the soul, and once you've experienced it, you'll know. You cannot truly capture the depth of this experience in words, yet nearly every awakened being in history has faced it. It is the spiritual wilderness, the internal winter, the complete obliteration of everything you thought you were. The dark night of the soul is not on bad day or a challenging week. It's not even sadness. It is a total collapse of identity. A spiritual and emotional implosion that will dissolve all of the structures, ego, beliefs, identities, even your sense of self. Not your body, but your identity. Your conditioning, your illusions. The character you've been playing in the world is being dismantled. Not because you are badly broken, but because the soul has decided it's time to be reborn. You might wake up one morning and feel nothing. No motivation, no excitement, no hope. Your passions may be meaningless. Your spiritual practices may stop working. Prayer feels empty. Meditation feels pointless. Even the things that used to comfort you, music, art, nature, even love, feel far away. You feel surrounded by the world and yet profoundly disconnected from it. This is the spiritual void. Not punishment, not abandonment, but a sacred silence designed to bring you face to face with your essence. And it is terrifying because the mind can't comprehend what is happening. Ego panics, something is wrong, I've lost my way, I'll never feel joy again. And the internal noise grows louder, but the soul is quiet. Not because it's indifferent, but because it knows this death is holy. It knows this emptiness is the space where the divine rewrites everything. In the dark night, even your faith in God, the source, or the universe can shatter. You may feel as though you've been abandoned by the very thing you trusted the most. Where is the light, you cry? Why has the light abandoned me? But the truth is, you have not been cut off from the light. The light has simply shifted from outside of you to within you. In the sacred dark, the light waits for you to realize you were never separate. This is also the part of the journey that leads many to give up. The unbearable pain, the isolation that feels like exile. Relationships fall away, careers collapse, health declines, and finances dry up. And it is not always because of failure. It is because the universe is burning away the false life you were living. Everything that is not aligned with your soul must go. Not as a punishment, but as a preparation. You are not being destroyed. You are being cleansed. And what remains after all of the pieces of the ego are stripped away is the truth. Not the borrowed beliefs, not the performance of spirituality, but the raw, wordless truth. The only truth that can be felt in the silence of your being. In this space, many find that the grief they are carrying was never just of the moment. It is ancestral, generational, past life, collective. You begin to feel the anguish of lifetimes, the cries of your lineage, the trauma of your ancestors, the suffering of humanity. You might find yourself crying for days with no reason attached. This is the soul purging density and allowing space for your next incarnation as your most true self. The body may respond too. You might feel the body will feel fatigued, headaches, joint pain, insomnia, appetite changes. These are more than simply symptoms. They are energetic upgrades. Your nervous system is rewiring, your DNA is shifting, your chakras are realigning. The old energies stored in your cells are being released. Rest. Hydrate. Surrender. Don't rush this process most of all. The dark night cannot be skipped. It cannot be fixed or sped up or worked out. It must happen. It is the alchemical fire that turns lead into gold. And like all fire, it will burn away any and everything that isn't meant to be. But what remains will be your essence, radiating, true and untouchable. And then, one day, something shifts. It's subtle. It's almost imperceivable. You step out of the house and experience warmth from the sun. You hear a bird chirp, and it ignites something in you. You laugh, really laugh for the first time in months. A little joy comes back, then a little more, and more. Until one day you wake up and you realize the night is over. The long dark tunnel has delivered you to the light of your own soul. You have not gone back. You have not healed and returned to normal. You have been reborn. You are not the same person you were before. You are clearer, softer, stronger. You are quieter on the outside, but louder in your presence. You carry something now, a wisdom, a stillness, a knowing. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to convince others. You no longer need to be right. You just are. And the world starts to reflect that change. People start arriving that speak your language. Opportunities begin to arise that match your path. Your body starts to heal. Your mind starts to quiet. Your instincts sharpen. You start to create not from lack or need, but from overflowing fullness. Herein lies the gift of the dark night. Uncertainty strips you back to your roots so you can finally flourish like the actual you. And while you may never want to go through it again one day, you'll look back and recognize it for what it was, the sacred passage that broke and cracked you wide open so that your light could finally shine through. So if you find yourself in the dark night now, hold on, not to your identity, not to your goals, not to your beliefs. Hold on to the one thing that never ever changes, your spirit. The rebirth. Living from soul, not survival. The dark night ends not as fireworks or angelic fanfare, but with stillness. A sunrise you didn't expect, a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding, and then clarity. Gentle, profound, unmistakable clarity. This is the dawning of rebirth, not just as a new person, but as your true self, finally free from the restrictions of illusion you once identified with. For the first time, perhaps in years or lifetimes, you are beginning to truly live from soul, not survival. Your decisions no longer stem from fear, obligation, or egoic ambition. They arise out of the meeting of alignment, resonance, inner truth. You do not ask, "What should I do?" You ask, "What feels right for my spirit?" And that question is doing the most amazing thing for you. You start to navigate through life with a quiet confidence, not the kind that shouts or with intimidation, but quiet confidence that radiates, a magnetic calm that others feel. You no longer hustle to prove your worth. You realize you are worth just for being. You no longer love as a transaction, you love as your basic state of being. You no longer fear being alone, for you solitude is your sanctuary and not your cage. This is the root of rebirth. You remember who you are, not as a role or label, but consciousness through a beautiful human form. You begin to see yourself in every face, every tree, every second. Life is no longer happening to you, it is unfolding as you. From this place, your relationship to the world begins to change dramatically. Old relationships may re-enter your experience, but now you can be a witness to those experiences with different eyes. If they still resonate with your frequency, then deepen into soul connections. If they don't, drift off gently without drama. There is no fighting, fixing, or clinging. You trust the flow. You trust the truth. New people come too. Soul family, kindred spirits, mentors, mirrors. These are the people you don't need to explain yourself to. Those that just get it. You share a common unspoken language. They are people who walk through their own fire and come out glowing. In the space you generate together, you co-create, support, and remind each other of what's real. Work changes too. You may leave a job you once loved and paid well, but drained your soul. Or maybe you stay, but now bring your presence and purpose into it, leaving the space you occupy entirely different. Money is not a god anymore. It becomes a tool. Success is not defined by job title or salary. It is defined by inner peace and whether you are making authentic contribution. Many people in this stage begin creating, not because they have to, but because their soul is overflowing. Art, writing, music, healing, teaching, whatever form it takes, it is born from love, not lack. You are no longer trying to get noticed. You are just expressing what wants to emerge. Your gifts become extensions of spirit. Your connection to your body deepens. You no longer see it as a machine to be manipulated or a project to be fixed. You start to listen. You honor its rhythms, its messages, its wisdom. Movement becomes sacred. Food becomes nourishment, not punishment. Illness becomes communication, not condemnation. You recognize that your body isn't in the way of your awakening. It is an integral part of your awakening. And then there's your mind, which used to be your enemy, but is now your friend. The thoughts in your mind doesn't stop completely, but they mellow out. You don't buy everything they have to say. You observe them like clouds meandering across a vast sky. You don't have to wrestle with them. You return your awareness to the stillness underneath it all. You can discern the voice of fear and the voice of truth. You choose the voice of truth. Your inner climate becomes your North Star. Intuition is not a fleeting flash of insight anymore. It is now how you engage with the world. You feel your way forward. If it feels heavy, forced, or misaligned, you let it go. When something feels expansive, peaceful, alive, you follow it. Life stops being about control and becomes about trust, not blind faith, but embodied knowing. You know that what you are meant for will find you not while you are chasing it, but while you are aligned with it. This does not mean life becomes ideal. Difficulties still show up. Loss still happens, but the way you experience them shifts. You no longer see difficulty as punishment, you see it as a gateway. You ask, what is this teaching me? Where is this directing me? And at every moment you return back to yourself, you don't get stuck for too long. You move, or at least you are present. Your default state is gratitude. Not because life is easy, but because you've experienced annoying feelings that seem like they were losing everything. And then your own everything is a miracle. A warm cup of tea, a deep conversation, how the light comes through the trees. Human life starts to feel like art. You're both the artist and the canvas. It is also at this phase of rebirth that your soul purpose becomes more apparent. Not in terms of a job description or mission statement, but rather a lived experience that informs every moment. You become medicine. You do not need to preach or convert others. Your being is enough. The way you live your life is your gift and offering. Your ways of listening, your way of forgiving, your ways of holding space and being present, that is the work. And because you are so deeply rooted in yourself, you will no longer look to the outside world for validation. You no longer will try to mold yourself to fit in or belong. You will belong to yourself. And therefore, from that place of wholeness, you belong everywhere. Of course, the world may not recognize this new you. Some may take issue with how much you have changed. Some will accuse you of being selfish or delusional or lost, but you no longer need their validation. You can bless them, release them, and carry on. Because you know that the only way to truly serve someone else is to be fully yourself. And here is the magical paradox. The more authentic you become, the bigger impact you have. Not by trying, but by being. You become a lighthouse, not by yelling from the top of the tower, but shining and radiating. People find you not by being chased, but by being anchored. This is the freedom your soul has always wanted. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from illusion. The freedom to live in alignment with your own truth, to love fearlessly, to create without shame, to lead without ego, to rest without guilt. You have crossed the threshold. You have weathered the storm, and now you stand as a bridge between worlds, between timelines, between realities. You are evidence that awakening is not a myth. It is an embodied experience, and it is possible. This rebirth is not the culmination of a journey. It is the commencement of a new one where you will walk not as a seeker, but as a keeper of the flame. You hold the light now, not to save people, but to remind them of their own. And that is everything. Becoming the light, integration, and return to the world. Once the flames have consumed illusion, once you have embraced the shadows, and once your soul has left behind the chrysalis of the dark night, you are met with the final and most sacred phase of the awakening journey. Integration. This is the space where all that you have learned, felt, unlearned, and remembered must now be lived. Not as a fleeting state of being, rather as a grounded, concrete presence in the world. Many people assume that awakening culminates in enlightenment, that when you realize the truth, the work is over. This concept is one of the largest misconceptions about the spiritual journey. Enlightenment is not the top of the mountain. It is realizing there isn't a mountain, and now you must return to the valley and embody what you have seen. Integration is the alchemy of spirit and form. It's easy to feel divine while you're sitting alone in meditation, surrounded by candles and silence. But can you feel that same divinity being stuck in traffic, attending a meeting, or while being caught up in the middle of a fight? Can you bring your awakened presence into grocery stores, family dinners, political debates, or social media? Can you hold your light not only in the temples and retreats, but also in the messiness of modern life? This is the real test and the true gift of awakening. You start to move differently through the world, not because you're trying to be holy, but simply because you are rooted in the truth. Your movements slow your speech, softens your breath, deepens you listen more, and react less. You start to see others not through the lens of judgment, but through compassion, even if they don't see you back. You remember what it was like to be asleep, to be afraid, to feel lost, and from that remembering you give grace. You don't talk about love, you become love. You don't talk about peace, you embody peace. You don't have to fix the world, you shift it simply by being present in it. This is the meaning of being the light, to carry a frequency that effortlessly transforms all that is around you without an agenda. Yet integration is not always gentle. There will still be times when the old patterns rise, when ego claws back, when pain comes back, when your mind tries to convince you that awakening was just a phase or a delusion. These are not signs of regression. They are invitations to go deeper into being your truth. You will revisit old wounds, not because you are broken, but because your consciousness is strong enough now to face them with love. You will encounter triggers, not as lapses, but as mirrors, showing you where more softness is needed. Integration invites you to welcome divinity into humanity, not abandon one for the other. This is when the sacred becomes everyday, and the everyday becomes sacred. Doing laundry becomes a prayer. Strolling around your neighborhood becomes a meditation. Making space for a crying child, letting a friend speak without interruption, choosing kindness when cruelty is a better option. The little things become manifestations of your inner Christ light. You understand, awakening is not about leaving this life. It is about being fully engaged in this life. And so, you begin to serve, not from duty, but from abundance. You don't need to wear colored robes or sit on a stage to be a teacher. Your life is the teaching. Your peace is the invite. Your presence is the sanctuary. People see you for you, not for answers, but for energy, because they can feel in you what reminds them of themselves. This is when you discover the awakened life journey is not linear. It is a spiral. There are cycles, Some days you feel universal and clear, other days you feel exhausted and vulnerable. Some days you feel you are channeling the divine, other days you just need a nap. And that is okay. Because awakening isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. You give yourself permission to be human. You laugh again, loudly. You cry without guilt. You make boundaries, not to punish but to maintain your peace of mind. You learn how to dance, take breaks, create, screw it up, then try again. You stop chasing some final destination. You realize this moment is the destination. This breath, this heartbeat, this connection. And inside that realization, you find peace. You also start to see everything as connected, not as a thought, but as an actual experience. You can no longer harm the earth as you can feel her as part of you. You can no longer turn a blind eye to injustice as your own heart aches. You begin to make more conscious decisions. How you eat, shop, speak, and vote and create. Not from guilt, but from awareness. You begin to be a steward of life, not complicitly, but because love naturally tends to what it loves. This stage is immensely creative. You may birth projects, communities, art, and movements. You become a channel, not where you force an outcome, but rather allow a flow of inspiration to emerge. You no longer ask, "What can I get?" You ask, "What wants to be given through me?" Life unfolds as a co-creation with your soul and the divine, and the outcomes can often be miraculous. You might start to find yourself mentoring others too, not to preach doctrine, but sharing simply your experience. You hold space for their questions, their confusion, their tears, because somehow you remember. You don't offer quick fixes, you offer presence. And in your presence, others have the opportunity to awaken too. This is how the new world begins. Not just revolutions or new technologies, but conscious embodied humans returning to their families, their communities, their workplaces, and simply making different choices. The world needs more awake souls, not necessarily because they are more enlightened, but because they are willing to be the change quietly, consistently, and authentically. You become a bridge between spirit and matter, heaven and earth, dream and action. And perhaps the most wonderful aspect of this stage is realizing you are never really alone. Even in your solitude, you are aware of something bigger than yourself. Source, God, the universe, spirit, your higher self, however you feel most alive. You know that the same consciousness that has awoken in you has also awakened in millions of others across the planet. You can feel the connection to something enormous, something ancient, something alive. A global remembrance, a community rebirth. And so you walk, not above but next to, not preaching but glowing, not surrendering but inviting. You are present, you are complete, you are home. With this, you go home. Not to change it but to love it, awake merely by being the true you.